Right now, as you're reading this, your brain is losing roughly 85,000 neurons every single day. That's not a scare tactic. That's biology. And for most people over 60, the effects are already showing up. The name that won't come, the word that disappears mid-sentence. The room you walked into for a reason you've completely forgotten. But here's what the pharmaceutical industry doesn't want you thinking about. A groundbreaking study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences followed over 2,800 adults for 10 years and found that specific cognitive exercises, not drugs, not supplements, produced measurable, lasting improvements in memory speed and function that persisted for a full decade after the training ended. 10 years from exercises. The problem is that most people are doing the wrong ones. Crossword puzzles and Sudoku, as fun as they are, showed almost zero transfer to real-world memory in a 2014 study from Florida State University involving 11,430 participants. Your brain needs something different, something that creates new neural pathways rather than just reinforcing ones that already exist. 3 specific exercises have been pulled out of neuroscience research as the most effective for reversing memory decline in older adults. And the number 1 exercise on this list, the one ranked most important, was shown in a randomized controlled trial to improve processing speed by 299% compared to a control group. That number is not a typo. Stay with me because that one is coming. Number 3, the dual and back task. Think of working memory like your brain's RAM, the short-term holding space where information stays active while you're using it. It's what lets you hold a phone number in your head long enough to dial it. It's what keeps track of the beginning of a sentence by the time you reach the end. And in most adults over 60, it's the first system to start cracking under pressure. The dual and back task is a specific cognitive exercise developed in the 1950s by Wayne Kirkner and later refined by neuroscientists into one of the most studied brain training protocols in the world. Here's exactly how it works. You watch or listen to a sequence of items, usually letters and positions on a screen, and your job is to identify when the current item matches the one that appeared exactly in steps back in the sequence. Within set to 2, you're constantly holding 2 items in mind simultaneously and comparing them to incoming information in real time. It is genuinely hard. That difficulty is the entire point. A pivotal study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences by Suzanne Jaggi and her team at the University of Michigan found that participants who trained on the dual and back task for 19 days showed a 40% improvement in fluid intelligence scores. Fluid intelligence being the brain's ability to reason through new problems without relying on stored knowledge. That's the exact capacity that memory depends on. Another study published in PLOS One tracked older adults doing 20 minutes of dual and back training 5 days a week for 4 weeks. By the end, working memory capacity had increased by an average of 30%, and the gains held at a 6-month follow-up. Here is exactly how to do this. You can access free dual and back programs online. The most research-validated version is called Brain Workshop, which is free and runs on any computer. For mobile, the app Dual and Back by Michael Fernandez is the most direct equivalent. Start at n=1, which means you're simply matching the current item to the one immediately before it. This will feel manageable. Do it for 3 days. Then move to n=2, which requires you to look back 2 steps. This is where most people feel genuinely challenged, and that's precisely where the neurological benefit lies. Each daily session should be 20 minutes long. Research consistently shows that sessions shorter than 15 minutes produce minimal lasting change, while sessions longer than 25 minutes produce fatigue without additional benefit. The sweet spot is 20 minutes, done at least 4 days per week. Do your session in the morning before your day gets busy, because that's when working memory is freshest and the training has the strongest encoding effect. Never train when you're exhausted. A fatigued brain in training mode reinforces poor patterns rather than building new ones. One critical mindset tip here: frustration during the dual and back task is not a sign you're doing it wrong. It is literally the mechanism through which improvement happens. Your brain is being forced to create new holding patterns for information under pressure. That slight strain is neurological growth in real time. Push through it. Now let's move to the exercise ranked second. And this one requires nothing but your own memory and a quiet walk. If this is already changing how you think about memory, hit subscribe. The next tip is the most important one yet. Number 2. The Method of Loci Walk. This one has been used for over 2,500 years. Ancient Greek orators used it to memorize hours-long speeches without a single note. Medieval scholars used it to retain entire libraries of knowledge. And for most of modern history, scientists assumed it was just a clever trick, a quirky mnemonic strategy with no real neurological depth. Then the brain scans arrived, and everything changed. The Method of Loci, which is Latin for method of places, works by taking information you want to remember and placing it mentally at specific physical locations along a route you know well. Your brain is extraordinarily good at spatial memory, far better than it is at abstract list memorization. By hijacking your spatial navigation system to carry other information, you're recruiting one of the most ancient and robust memory circuits in the human brain, the same one your ancestors used to navigate the wild. A landmark study published in Neuron in 2017 by Martin Dressler and his team at Radboud University took 51 adults who described themselves as having average or below average memory and trained half of them intensively in the Method of Loci for 6 weeks. The other half did no training. At the end of 6 weeks, the trained group could recall an average of 35 words from a 72-word list. The untrained group recalled an average of 7. That's a 5-fold improvement. MRI scans of the trained group showed measurable changes in resting state brain connectivity. Their brains had physically rewired to more closely resemble the patterns seen in memory champions. And 4 months later, with no additional training, 72% of those gains were still intact. Here is exactly how to do this as a daily exercise. Choose a walk you take regularly, your neighborhood loop, your hallway, your backyard path. It must be a route you know well enough to visualize with your eyes closed. Before your walk, choose a list of things you want to memorize. This can be your shopping list, names of people you've recently met, medication names, historical facts, vocabulary in a language you're learning, anything. Assign each item to a specific, vivid, exaggerated mental image and place it at a distinct landmark along your route. The vividness is non-negotiable. Your brain encodes bizarre, emotional, and exaggerated images far more durably than plain ones. If you need to remember the word telephone, don't just picture a phone sitting on your front step. Picture a giant telephone the size of a car, ringing so loudly the windows shake, with a cartoon hand reaching out of the receiver. That level of absurdity is not silly. It is neurologically optimal. Studies on encoding strength consistently show that emotionally charged, unusual images are retained at rates 3 to 4 times higher than neutral ones. During your walk, which should last 20 to 30 minutes, mentally travel your route and review each image at its location. Do this 3 times through during the walk, once placing the images, once reviewing them forward, and once attempting to recall them backward, which forces the hippocampus to work even harder. At the end of your walk, write down everything you remember without looking at your original list. That retrieval attempt, even when you get things wrong, is itself a powerful memory consolidation event. Research from Purdue University found that retrieval practice, even failed retrieval, increases long-term retention by up to 50% compared to simply restudying information. Do this walk daily, or at minimum 5 times a week. Change your memory list each day to prevent stagnation. After 2 weeks, add a second route and alternate between them. The variety forces your brain to keep building new spatial memory connections rather than coasting on the ones it's already made. And now, the number one exercise, the one with a 299% result that stopped researchers in their tracks. Number 1. Speed of Processing Training, SOPT. In 2014, the results of the largest cognitive training study ever conducted were published in the Journal of the American Geriatric Society. It was called the ACTIVE Trial, Advanced Cognitive Training for Independent and Vital Elderly, and it followed 2,832 healthy older adults across 6 sites in the United States for 10 years. This wasn't a small university experiment. This was the gold standard of long-term cognitive research, and the exercise that came out on top, beating memory training and reasoning training, was speed of processing training, also called SOPT. Here's what makes SOPT different from everything else on this list. While working memory exercises train your brain's holding capacity and the method of Loci trains your encoding ability, SOPT trains the raw speed at which your brain processes visual information. Think of it this way. A slow processor doesn't just take longer to get answers. It drops information before it can be stored at all. When your processing speed declines, information arrives faster than your brain can handle it, and memory gaps are the direct result. SOPT attacks that bottleneck at its source. The ACTIVE Trial's results were extraordinary. Participants who completed SOPT training showed a 299% improvement in processing speed compared to the no-contact control group. More importantly, those trained in SOPT were 33% less likely to show clinical cognitive decline over the 10-year follow-up period. They were also 38% more likely to maintain the ability to perform complex daily tasks, like managing finances and medication schedules, independently. These aren't test scores. These are real-life outcomes tracked for a decade. Here is exactly how to do SOPT. The core exercise is called the Useful Field of View drill, and it works like this. You sit in front of a screen, a computer, tablet, or phone, and a central object appears in the middle of your visual field. At the same moment, a target object flashes briefly at the outer edge of your visual field, somewhere in your peripheral vision. Your job is to identify the peripheral object before it disappears. The objects flash for fractions of a second, sometimes as brief as 16 milliseconds. Over time, the program reduces the display time, forcing your visual processing system to work faster and more efficiently. The validated, research-used version of this exercise is available through a program called BrainHQ, developed by Posit Science, the same company that contributed to the ACTIVE Trial. The specific exercise within BrainHQ to use is called Double Decision, which is the closest consumer version to the SOPT protocol used in clinical research. Sessions are designed to run in approximately 5 minutes per exercise block, but for meaningful benefit, you should complete 4 consecutive blocks per session, totaling about 20 minutes. Here is how to maximize your results. Do your SOPT session in a room with consistent, moderate lighting. Screen glare and extreme brightness force your visual system to compensate, which dilutes the processing speed signal your brain needs to focus on. Sit at a comfortable distance from your screen, arm's length for tablets, slightly farther for desktops. Eliminate distractions completely. Put your phone on silent. Close other browser tabs. The exercise requires genuine undivided attention, and split attention during a processing speed drill is like trying to build muscle while stopping every 30 seconds. The adaptation doesn't fully occur. Research from the ACTIVE Trial showed that 10 hours of total SOPT training, spread across multiple sessions, was the threshold at which significant long-term protection against cognitive decline was confirmed. At that milestone, neural efficiency in the visual processing cortex showed measurable improvement on functional MRE. That's 10 hours total. At 20 minutes per day, 5 days a week, you hit that threshold in 6 weeks. 6 weeks to a measurably more efficient brain. After the initial 10 hours, maintenance training of 1 session per week was shown to preserve gains for years. One final point worth understanding about why this exercise ranks number 1. SOP doesn't just improve speed in isolation, because visual processing is upstream of nearly every other cognitive function, including memory encoding, attention, and decision-making. Improving it creates a cascade effect across the entire brain. A 2017 meta-analysis published in Neuropsychology Review analyzed 29 separate SOP studies and concluded that processing speed improvements reliably predicted downstream improvements in memory recall, executive function, and sustained attention. You're not just training one skill, you're upgrading the foundation that every other skill runs on. The 3 exercises in this video, the dual and back task, the method of Loci Walk, and speed of processing training, work on completely different parts of your memory system. Together, they form a complete protocol. Pick one and start today. Your brain is not done growing. Science says so. Now, we want to hear from you. Which of these 3 exercises are you going to try first? And have you ever noticed your memory getting sharper after changing a daily habit? Share with us your experiences and opinions in the comments below. We love to hear them. Thanks for watching.